Well, Felix, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
I'm 12 years old. I got interested in space about a year ago now, and that's one of the sort of things that I'd like to do when I'm older.
What got you interested in space?
Um, the science of it really, and being able to go and explore.
So exploration is kind of like a big term, and I've talked to so many people that are like, we know more about the moon than we do about the ocean, and I'm not entirely sure that's true. But like, why explore space instead of explore the ocean?
Um, well, exploring the moon can bring more opportunities than exploring the ocean, because on the moon there's resources that we can use.
That sounds good. I was just watching one of your YouTube videos right before this call, the one where you talked to Jarek Isaacman
Yeah,
about the Inspiration 4 mission. So that's pretty exciting. You knew who the Hope person was before anybody else did.
yeah. I went onto the call to interview Jared, and she was just there when it was happening. So it was quite a surprise to do that.
That was amazing. Yeah. How did you get to interview Jared?
I reached out to him through email, and he replied within about an hour.
Oh, and how did you feel when he replied?
I was speechless really. I didn't know what to say.
Well, that's awesome. Um, so a lot of people um, don't know that we're going to the moon in 2024, and I was wondering if that surprises you or that's been in line with kind of like what you're thinking or
But
seeing.
people not knowing that, it does quite surprise me, because it's quite a big thing in history.
Um, and I guess what do you think NASA and other space advocates like yourself and me should be doing in order to kind of make people more aware of this?
Doing things like this, where we're interviewing and asking them if what they think of it, and informing them of it.
Yes, so many people have told me. So I asked them. I'm like, "Hey, did you know that we're sending astronauts to the moon in 2024?" They're not. They're like, "Not until you asked me to do this interview." So, at least there's probably about 300 people that know now that didn't before. But what do you think about us going back to the moon?
It'll bring lots more opportunities, and it'll inspire lots of younger people um to 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 go into that sort of field of work when they're older.
And um, when you look at the future of humanity, like 500 years from now, what do you hope it becomes? I mean, like, what do you see?
I see people living not just on Earth but on the moon as well, and other planets, explore being having the technology to be able to explore much more.
Do you think there'll be people that in that time frame would have never ever set foot on Earth?
Um, yeah, yeah, that would be quite cool. Yeah.
And you know, what happens to humanity whenever you start having people that no longer have this shared experience? How do we still stick together?
Um, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Um, there's some people that wonder, is going to the moon really worth it? Why are we doing that? We have people that are starving on Earth and global climate change and, equality and justice and inclusion issues and all these other things. Um, I mean, and they seem fairly legitimate concerns. So in light of that, like, what are some things that these people could get out of it that they should also consider? I mean, like,
Well, going to the moon would create lots of more jobs as well. So there there'd be less people who are homeless and don't have jobs, and climate change. I'm not quite sure about climate change, but
Well, and some people have said that space is essential for combating like climate change because without the satellites, we wouldn't have good metrics in terms of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and um, being able to measure the worldwide temperature of the Earth and lots of other things. But one thing that I keep thinking back to is like in 1968 when you had the first people travel around the moon. They look back at the Earth and they see Earth as a sphere. A lot of people credit the whole environmental movement as really getting a jump start with that picture. Whenever people realize, Earth isn't quite as gigantic and as immune to abuse as we might have thought.
yeah, the Earth is very small in comparison to all the rest of the solar system.
It is, but I've talked to a lot of people about that, and it's really hard for them to grasp. Like, yeah, I mean, it's uh, to tell people that these stars are actually some of them are much bigger than our sun, and that these planets that you see that are just little dots in the sky are much bigger than the Earth. Uh,
Yeah.
have you tried like explaining this to people, and what has your experience been like?
Most people think when they see a star that it's a very, very, very small speck of dust out in that's glowing out in space, but it's not. It's like you said, it's very, very big.
But how do you convince them of that? Because like just looking at it from the Earth, it does look like a little bitty speck. Uh,
Well, not you won't really know how big they are really until you've gone to explore. So going to the moon, it would bring up that opportunity to show people how big the universe really is.
and if it was safe and affordable, would you go to space?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd quite like to go on the journey. Being able to be in zero G, being able
Uh,
to do cool things.
and would you just go for like a suborbital flight, or would you go in orbit or go to the moon, or you're thinking about maybe immigrating to Mars? Like how far would you want to go?
I'd quite like to go to Mars.
And what do you think it'd be like on Mars?
At the very beginning, it would be a very, very harsh environment, but as it got populated, it'll become like a second home.
Yeah, I just imagine. I mean, like have you been watching the Mars 2020 rover
Yeah,
images? And kind of like, what have you seen and what have you thought about it?
I, I'm. It would be quite cool to actually see that in person one day. Being able to actually land on Mars, being able to see that in person.
Is there something about the Mars 2020 rover that's particularly excited and fascinated you about, kind of the images and the videos and the sounds that they've released?
Yeah, just the what the rover will find on Mars. It could help us back here on Earth and on the moon.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing rover, trying to drive it, whenever it's like 15 minutes round trip to actually get a signal there and back is pretty amazing. Uh, do
Yeah,
you
it's
s-
very, very far away.
do you see yourself as going to be an engineer or a scientist or something else?
I'd quite like to be an engineer, a rocket engineer.
And would you want to actually design rockets, as you say, or maybe like habitats or vehicles that you could go around Mars on and like
Habitats would be really, really cool to design and create and build.
have you started dreaming of what your habitats might look like?
Um, Not really, no. But every now and then you have an image in your mind, and that's something you'd really like to complete and create when you're older.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you been to any place on Earth where you're like, this is kind of what I imagine a habitat on the moon or Mars might be like?
Not really, no.
I've been up to Minneapolis a few times in the winter, and they have all of their downtown buildings, not all of their downtown buildings, but a lot of them connected by a second floor skywalk. And you can walk from building to building in these tunnels. And some of the buildings have like these huge atriums, you know, and like waterfalls and big open areas and stuff. And I kind of imagine, you know, if we built like a facility on Mars, it might be like that.
Yeah, it could. Yeah. The thing, things that were built on Mars, they'd be very light because they're well, something that I'd like to create is habitats completely made out of glass or something see-through. It actually gives like a nice view.
Yeah, that would be nice, especially on the moon, you know, you're like you just look out and you see the Earth just dangling out there in the middle of space and kind of kind of neat. Um, let's see, your classmates and the people you come in contact with, are they just excited about space exploration development as you are, or um, do they have other interests?
They have other interests. I don't think many people really know. Many young people don't really want to go into the most young people nowadays don't really want to go into the profession of space and engineering.
Oh, what are some of their interests?
Mostly things to do with computers and stuff. Yeah.
And um, let's see. If there was one thing that you wish everybody in the Earth knew about space, what would it be?
Um, Probably about the most as Earth is one of the only places that you could go to and you wouldn't have and you'd have to not wear a spacesuit. Earth is the only planet where there's oxygen. There's pure oxygen where you can properly breathe.
Yeah, I mean, Earth is both a very special place and you know, a small place too. It's kind of an interesting contrast. Um, so you're making these space videos. What's sort of your goal with them?
To sort of put out there what I think about space and influence other people to maybe want to do that when they're older, because many people don't really want to.
Yeah, and I guess have you found some people that uh, really agree with you about what you think about space, or do you see your views as being unique?
There were other people. There are lots of other people out there who would like to go to space when they're older.
And what do you think about the inspiration for mission and the idea of using a seed on that capsule as being a fundraiser for St. Jude's?
This is actually quite cool. It was named Inspiration 4 to inspire people to want to do more stuff with space, and I think after that mission is done, I think that will inspire quite a few more people.
Do you think there will be a lot of other people doing similar types of things to raise money for different causes, or do you think this is kind of maybe a unique thing that won't be repeated that much?
I think people will do that more. Yeah, after this mission, I think more people will be inspired to do that, and they will.
Have you heard of this other thing called Space Hero?
No.
So it's something that's still in the works, but the idea is to have a worldwide contest that'd be like a reality TV show type of thing, where essentially the contest will select a citizen astronaut to go to the International Space Station for 10 days. Um, I mean, is this something that you would consider participating in?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd quite like to go to the International Space Station.
And if you were designing the contest, the challenges, and you were looking at both trying to um, find the best person to send and be kind of help. improve and make everybody better, and then C, also entertain a whole wide range of people. What are some kind of challenges that you would like to see be part of the contest?
Um, I'm I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. You could put lots of things into one and then do that.
And let's see, what are you studying in school these days that you think is going to be most useful as you go about designing rockets later on?
Science and maths. They're probably two of the most important things to to learn if you want to go into that sort of thing.
Well, um, did you have any questions for me?
Um, what do you aim to do with this project? What's the ultimate goal?
Well, I don't really have an ultimate goal, but I can tell you about how the project came about. Um, Before everybody else was working from home because of the COVID lockdown, I had been working from home for 2 years. And I realized that I was only seeing like my family for like weeks at a time. And so my social circles felt very small. And back in 2019, Doug Laverio had been um, selected as being the NASA assistant administrator charged with getting us to the moon in 2024. And so he had a little lapel pin that he wore, and every day he would update it to be the number of days till the end of 2024. And in combination with that, he was highlighting a specific NASA employee as being, um, the hero of the day that was helping us get to the moon. And the combination of those three factors and the fact I was on winter break at the time made me think, why don't I just go and interview everyday people and find out what they think? And so that's how the project came about.
Cool. Have you learned anything new about space yourself when doing these?
Absolutely. I've learned a lot about people's perceptions of space too. Um, that I've talked to a few people that wonder if there's life on the moon, which on one hand seems very questionable to me, considering the the you know really hostile conditions. I mean, you don't have an atmosphere. You have extreme heat during the daylight and extreme cold at night. There's no liquid water. So it's very easy to say there's absolutely no life on the moon. Um, but at the other point, we're going to explore to find out things we didn't even know. So it's like we we should go with open eyes and an open mind. And sure, we can put some things as extremely low probability, but um, it's very easy to um, kind of ignore things if you don't think it's possible. So I found that to be kind of eye-opening. The other thing is I've talked to some people who are against us going to the moon, and they say stuff like, we messed up the Earth, we shouldn't mess up the moon too, which is something that I have a difficulty understanding because pollution doesn't make sense to me without there being life. And if there's no life on the moon, then what is pollution? But it also made me think, you know, we also don't know, like, in the craters near the poles of the moon, there's water ice that's frozen. And I was thinking, while we're maybe not afraid of like pollution, um, what if in the process of trying to get at that water ice, we actually caused a little bit of a cave in with like the crater, and then like sunlight started causing the water ice to start boiling away and stuff. So it's like, that's a good point. Maybe we need to be extra careful about what we do. So I've learned a lot of things about people's perceptions um, about this.
Cool.
And it's always good just to connect with people, to find out what other people think and try to understand their point of view for a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the most surprising thing that you've learned in the creation and preparation for your videos?
I've I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I've learned that people when someone's about to go to space, they're they're not really worried as much as you think they'd be until the very moment before they go up.
Do you ride roller coasters?
No,
Why not?
I'm not sure. I've never really ridden a roller coaster.
I don't particularly like roller coasters, but one thing you hear about some of the astronauts is they're like fearless and will like to ride roller coasters and things like that. So that kind of scares me sometimes that I I don't like roller coasters. So I've also talked to some people who don't want to go to space. And I remember interviewing one mother and daughter together. And I asked the question, would you go to space? And the mom's like, yes, sure, absolutely. And the daughter's like, no, I don't think so. And then the mom looks at the daughter like, I didn't know that about you. It was very an interesting moment.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite space movie?
Um, I watched Apollo 11 or Apollo 13, I think, the other day, and that was actually very good.
And do you have some favorite authors that you like to read?
Um, there's a book about Elon Musk that I've been reading, and that author that's written that book's actually quite good.
Is it the Ashley Vance one about Elon Musk and our extraordinary future or something like that?
Yeah,
I listened to the audio version of that book. It's really good. I Well, Felix, I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing your YouTube channel grow, and I'm sure you'll have lots of subscribers and lots of great content. And it was good to get to talk to you while um, uh, you know while you're still developing it.
thank you very much.
Well, you have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.